For tonight's first chapter, you get to see why he's the king of her desire by Wattpad star Cynthia Dagnall Myron.
My love is like a flower, trying to get you over. You like love sour, then you should come try my poison.
Welcome to First Chapters, where I literally read the first chapter from books on Wattpad. These are generally books written by my author friends since they tend to be more agreeable and open to trying new things. I do occasionally get asked to read other books, so a few might pop up every now and again. So why the first chapter? Because I'm not about to sit and read someone's entire book on YouTube. There's some whole copyright issues there. And besides, face it, it's a lot of work. But the other thing is that you can tell a lot from a first chapter, way more than from a synopsis. So this is what we're doing. If you want a review, there are plenty of other channels for that, so please go check them out. Disclaimer time. This is usually my first time or second time reading, so you get to hear all of my mistakes since it's on camera. Every single mistake. I'm your host, Rodney V. Smith, Watty Award-winning author of The Kingfield Killer, which is available on Wattpad Page Stories. And now it's time to get into another first chapter. Family or fame? Should homeless teen Shoni King leave his family and his heart? A native girl with soul-filled eyes for the fast lane offered by a seductive celebrity twice his age. Elliott Weston, who went from child star to pop star before dropping out of the business of show years ago, thinks Shoni has the looks and smarts to make it big. And she's willing to share him with the world and the other woman, Xochitl, if she must. But Shoni, who has worked hard to keep food on his family's table for most of his young life, is an old soul, not easily fooled by smoke and mirrors. Elliott fascinates him. She's worldly, wild, and wonderfully well-preserved for her age. And as a natural caretaker, he's also concerned by her failing health. But he loves the saner, simpler world he comes from, and a native woman from across the border who adores him deeply and selflessly, just as he is. He's standing on the edge of stardom, but should he take that leap? Let's get into the first chapter. He was like a little alien, the tiny blue crab that sidled up to me in the sand. Sideways, right? You know how they scuttle like that. And when I held out a piece of tortilla, he snatched it in one of his little claws and skittered right off again. I wish I'd brought the sibs with me. They would have gotten such a kick out of that little critter. I could almost see them doing wonky little cartwheels on the beach, the littlest ones running away from a big wave. They never got to do anything, those kids. It's always been that way for us. Couldn't afford to do anything, go anywhere. Couldn't go outside even, hardly. Too freaking dangerous where we live. And now they were living way out in Dogpatch. That's what they called it back in the day, because it reminded people of that real old little Abner comic strip about a bunch of hillbillies, how people imagined they lived. They made them talk all dumb and country, wear worn-out jeans with rope belts, beat up brogan boots with holes in the toes, had chickens and goats and things indoors with them. Yeah, real funny. It's not so comical in real life, of course. Living in a death-trapped double-wide full of bitter meth heads. That's where they were now, the littlest ones. CPS had given them to Mima, my grandmother, finally after our mother got busted. It was the guy she was with that had the drugs. My mother wasn't capable of doing anything like that. She's about my 8-year-old sister's age mentally and emotionally. But she was there when the cops came. And being like she was, she couldn't speak up for herself. That same guy is why I wasn't there either. He beat me so bad once that I had to be hospitalized, and I just never went back. The social workers overlooked that fact too. For once, they did what was right instead of what was supposed to be done. I crashed on many a couch, but it was better than never knowing when that asshole was going to get high and start seeing things. Demons. We all turned into demons when he was high enough. Demons he had to kill to save humanity or some stupid-ass thing like that. I was the lead demon, and when he wasn't high, he just hated me undermining his authority. Because my mother listened to me over everybody else in the whole world. I'd saved our lives lots of times, so she trusted me. And he hated that. like lording it over her because she was so helpless. Perfect victim for a guy like that. Anyway, my name is Shoni King. I'm about to be 19. And no, I'm not native. They don't even spell it that way, the real Shoshone people. There should be an E at the end. But like damn near every family in America, mine had this fantasy about having a little bit of Indian blood from way back in the day. Pisses off my real Indian friends no end. I mean, if it's not an Indian princess, it's some warrior akin to Geronimo or Sitting Bull or Crazy Horse. Yeah, we love Indians. Not that there aren't hardly any, but it's not all ancient history to them. They live among the ghosts of all the people that got massacred and the bits and pieces of the cultures that were schooled out of them over all that time. Two of my friends shot themselves when all that anger and frustration boiled up and drove them crazy like it does so often. Because they know what they used to be. Because they know what they used to have. Be. And they look around at what they are now and what we've done to the place, especially now that we've trashed it so bad. That part, we don't want to talk about that though. We just want to buy the authentic jewelry and katsinas that were actually made in China a lot of the time, and then go back east and talk about the real Indians we bought them from. Never mind. Country's so fucked up now, there's no use even talking about it. At the time I'm telling you about, I'd met this dude whose family had owned this place called Miramar down in Rocky Point, right up on the beach. And he wanted to restore all the little casitas for when the play was over and people would be wanting to come play again. He'd found out I was handyman material by accident, actually. I fixed some plumbing in a building I was staying in for a few days. A pipe burst in one apartment and fucked up all the floors and the walls of the apartment below. I cut off the water and stopped the gush. Nobody seemed to know where the main shut-off valve was, but I figured it out and helped them find what caused it. Old part in a washing machine got stuck, so the water couldn't flow. So the pipe blew open from the pressure. My family used to have to fix everything because we couldn't replace anything. Appliances in our houses were scrapyard material, held together with duct tape, crazy glue, whatever worked. Some of the walls were patched with coffee cans, beat down real flat. Stuff like that. For my trouble, the manager gave me a little studio of my own in exchange for the work, and enough of a salary for me to live on. Barely, but I was grateful anyway. I found out about the Miramar project later when the owner came by. His parents didn't want to part with them, but they weren't making any money anymore, so it was a big gamble. But they were kind of historic, built back when it was an artist colony that even movie stars would show up in sometimes. So he asked me to go down and take a look, figure out what all might have to be done, tinker around with the ones that didn't need quite so much work. I had a credit line and everything for that part, and expenses. Very cool deal. I felt like a trust fund baby on vacation at the family beach house or something. And I remember one day there was this massive, ritzy-looking boat. Okay, it was a yacht, I guess. Over near a big white house over that way that wasn't part of Miramar. It stayed a few days. I was too busy to check out who all came and went from it, but on the third day I decided to take a walk down there just to snoop a little bit. And as I got kind of close to it, it sounded like a party going on in the house there. People laughing. I strolled past, trying to catch a glimpse on the sly, but it was kind of up a slope, so I couldn't look inside through the door or anything. So I went on back to my place. Wasn't till a day or so later that I saw her sitting on the beach, the woman who was living in that house. The boat was gone, but she was there in a deck chair. From a distance, she looked all leggy and blonde. It was like the cover of a brochure, right? This perfect babe kicking back on the sand. I didn't say anything. I just kind of watched for a bit, and then got back to working on this water tank that had rusted out underneath, trying not to have to get a new one. That's why he liked me, David. I salvaged things. Saved him money. A lot of the tanks were beyond repair, but some I could patch, weld. And I knew where to get used parts and stuff like that. I'd tell him if it wasn't safe or something, but whenever possible, I did it for a lot less than the pros would have. But as for the blonde, I didn't bother her. I just caught a glimpse of her sunbathing now and then. But one day she got up from that deck chair and sort of wobbled like she was drunk or something, and then fell real hard. More like a dead faint. Not like from booze, but maybe too much sun or some sort of illness. So I went running over, and that's when I saw she was older than she seemed to be from a distance. Only she was ridiculously pretty, though. Some kind of actress or model or something, I thought. Aging, but still pretty damn beautiful. She had all this almost white hair all down her back, and she was real slender except at the chest area. Killer body still. A little crepey in spots, few cracks at the corners of the eyes and the lips, but she kind of dazzled me, I'm not going to lie. All the older women I knew would have hated her. Her eyes were open when I got there, and she froze when she saw me, stared like I was an alien or something. And I said, "You good? You okay?" She eased herself up and sat back on her hands, and that's when I saw the little tremor. The legs trembling, sort of, and her hands too. And she gave me this kind of wise-ass smile and said, "Well, you're beautiful, huh?" Killer voice to go with the killer body. Kind of husky, sexy as hell. And I honest to God told her, "I was just thinking the same thing about you, actually." And she nodded and looked out at the water and said, "Yeah, us girls got a real thrill out of you the other day. What are you, 16? 17? 19 next month?" Whoa, my lucky day, huh? Took me a minute, and then I said, "Yeah, I'm legal, I guess." "Well, no worries, hot stuff. These bones are too brittle for me to try any tricks like that. Already broke one hip." I gave this little snort and said, "Yeah, well, there's the other," and then stopped right quick. But she laughed so hard she could have broken the other hip. And then she gave me a wink and said, "Good at that, huh?" And then I said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have." She said, "Answer the question, son." So I smiled and said, "No complaints so far." And she gave me this devilish, "Ooh, good answer. I like that." "Can I help you some other way, though? Get someone or something?" "Nah. If I wait a little while, I can kind of struggle my way up. It's good for me, actually, to use those muscles while I can." "What's remitting MS. Relapsing more often now, which sucks. I have a friend who just has the regular kind." "Ah, everyone does, apparently." "No, I really do. She works at this organization for homeless people. She's pretty cool." She nodded and smiled and said, "You are seriously beautiful. You know it too, right?" I did. Do. But I shrugged and said, "Yeah, I guess. I mean..." "What?" "Look at the draw, right? It's not like you earn it or anything. Looks." She added a few times. She nodded a few times and said, "Another good answer." "'Cause you're like a model or something?" "Close enough," she said. And then she started that struggle she talked about. She had a routine that eventually got her into a sort of downward-facing dog position that she could push up from. Looked painful, but she was obviously used to it. And once she was up, she threw her head and all that hair back and stared at the sky and said, "Fuck you, man." To God, I think, which I thought was fair, actually. I get mad at God a lot, too. And then she looked over at me and said, "Musician, I'll tell you about it sometime." And started heading back to the house. A little wobbly still, but I knew she didn't want me to do anything. I could feel she wanted to make it on her own. In fact, when some woman came trotting out of the house toward her, she waved her back, straightened those shoulders as much as she could, as if to prove she didn't need any help. And for a moment she looked, and probably felt, like a young woman again, strutting across the sand. I wished I was older so I could have seen her then. And I wished I'd asked her name, so I could have found some of her music, maybe. I don't know dick about celebrities. Don't watch TV. Don't have a TV. Don't get all into social media either. Was she famous or something? Someone I should have known? End of chapter 1. If you like what you just heard, you can continue reading more of the book on Wattpad by following the link in the description. You can also follow on social media. That's all for tonight, so thanks for joining. Don't forget to click the like button down there. Don't forget to click the like button. Don't forget to click the like button down there and subscribe if you want to listen to me read some more first chapters. I try to update 5 days a week, and there's always something new. So, see you around. Happy reading.
And ever since then, my lion